So I'm sure many of you guys have heard of the name Palantir. Palantir is a really popular company, to say the least, at least in 2024. And I thought that I would take some time to actually talk about it because there's a lot of good things that are supposedly going on with this company, but then also some red flags that I think a lot of you guys should just be aware of. So again, I really hope that you learned something new, and if you do, please consider dropping a thumbs up and subscribing if you feel like we earned it. Now, please feel free to share your own thoughts and opinions about Palantir down in the comments section. The thing that I've become familiar with when it comes down to Palantir is that there's a lot of hype behind it. There's a lot of people like on Reddit or on these like x.com that there's like these cult-like followings that hype up the stock even more. It really got me to want to look in a little bit more into this company. So Palantir currently at nearly a $90 billion market cap. That's with a B. 89.60 billion. That is the market cap valuation for this company. Well, what is Palantir? Palantir Technologies is a public American company that specializes in software platform for big data analytics. Well, what exactly does that mean, right? Supposedly this company was originally funded by Peter Thiel, who's famously known for being one of the original investors in Facebook, and Stephen Cohen and Alex Karp in 2003. So this company has been around, and honestly, it hasn't always had an amazing run. If you actually look at Palantir, it originally shot up because there was a lot of hype behind it. As you can see, we're approaching those previous highs, and then it came crashing down to lows of $5.84. So again, it aggressively went up to highs of 45, aggressively crashed, hitting lows of $5.84, and then now returning back to $40. Now, don't get me wrong, there's a lot more positive news now than there was in the past before. But my question is, could this be an overreaction? I thought this would be something worth looking into. So let's go ahead and take a deep dive, right? So with that that $89.5 billion market cap, the first question that I wanted to ask myself is, oh wow, this company must be producing so much more revenue now than what it was in the past. So again, it doesn't take much to really look into this. You can just kind of like look up the company, and I looked at different companies that are in very similar market caps and what they produce annually in revenue per year. Because again, to be worth $90 billion, your company must be producing a great amount of revenue, right? Well, with Palantir, it's a little bit different. When you click on Palantir and you click on their actual revenue, what it actually produces year over year, it produces, as of last year, 2022, $1.9 billion. 2023, if I'm not mistaken, $2.2 billion. And this year, $2.47 billion. Now, don't get me wrong, $2.5 billion of anything is a lot of money. But is it $90 billion worth of market cap valuation? Because again, this is the progression that we've seen in the past few years. It's modest, it's consistent, and that's great. But is it the type of growth that should be reflected from going from $5 all the way up to $40? Now, that was a little bit of a red flag that really intrigued me to want to learn more about why is this experiencing such an amazing return this year alone. And again, I did a little bit of digging. You can do the same. When you look at this year alone, 2024, you can see down here, 2024, from the overall lows that we hit to the current highs, it is up about 130 to about 150% this year. That is just within the past, 10 months, it's experienced about 120 to 150% ROI. Since its lows, which again you can't control nor predict, of $5.84, it went from $5.84 to its current price, which is a 585% return. Insane. Like, this is a stock worth talking about because of how much it's gained. Now, it's great, and I can see why there's a lot of hype, a lot of attention. It has an amazing track record based off of that recovery and its growth in the past 2 to 3 years. So I can see why it's attracted a lot of beginner investors, those that are looking to get rich super quick off of a stock that is experiencing and yielding an amazing return. But my question is, I wanted to learn more about why. Well, if it's not the revenue that it's producing, obviously it's not. I mean, if you look at 2020 to 2024, we're growing, but nothing crazy, because if you look at the, comparables of different companies that are trading at the same market cap. I mean, let's go ahead and even look at something like, what would it be? I mean, let's look at the next. Let's even look at something that's maybe worth a little bit less. Dell. Dell is worth $84 billion. You're telling me that Dell Technologies is worth less than Palantir? Okay, well, Dell must not be producing a lot of revenue. Oh, wait, it does. $91 billion is what it produces per year. Now, of course, that's not all profit, but 91 billion, 88 billion, 102 billion, that's what it produces, and it's worth about that same amount in its market cap. Now, maybe it's just the fluke. Obviously, Dell is a very reputable company, and maybe it's just one that is an outlier, right? Again, we can take a step back and look at random companies that are trading within the same market cap. Let's just go one above. What is Enbridge producing per year? Let's click on revenue. $32 billion. So for this company to be worth, the 90 billion or nearly 90 billion, it produces about $32 billion a year in revenue. Palantir is not even close. I mean, think about it. Palantir produces 2.4 billion, but it's worth 90. There's a huge discrepancy there. Then again, what does Palantir really focus? What does it really do? And if you look into it and the way that people break it down, it's a software platform company that takes a lot of data from very specific companies and or supposedly the CIA and or this is the one that was really interesting to me, the United States Department of Defense. It takes in a lot of data, so it has to be fed a lot of data, and based off of its AI that it has, it creates solutions or identifies infrastructure opportunities for these large corporations. So people like you and I, even if our company is relatively pretty small, we wouldn't be using companies like Palantir because we don't have enough data to feed it. But these are companies such as like Amazon, Google, the United States Department of Defense that have to be fueling and feeding the software to be able to get a solution at the end. And that's essentially what Palantir does. Now, one thing that Palantir has been noted on is because it doesn't really focus on consumers, but really large corporations. Therefore, it has a very niched down user pool, right? It's very focused on larger corporations, which of course you maybe can make a lot of money per corporation, but at the end of it, is it ever going to be an Oracle? Is it ever going to be a type of software that grows and excels that every consumer can use? Well, not necessarily based off of the current focus. As of right now, to my understanding, they have 3 different, I would say, tiers or softwares when it comes down to their to what it is that they offer. And if we look at it, let me see if I can pop it up real quick. To my understanding, Palantir has a Gotham software, and then it has 2 others that they offer in their services. And then this is the thing that really stood out to me, is that it's PE ratio to 103, which means that, again, on average, you want to have a healthy PE ratio. And this thing is just completely out of the water when it comes down to what it actually produces per year and what it's currently worth. And I think the big part of that is because it incorporates its AI, which again, AI for 2024 has been an insane year, right? There's no companies that have excelled quicker than any other company that's really focused on that AI type of software like nvda or every other company that's investing billions and billions of dollars into that type of future. Now, don't get me wrong, is there potential in AI? Yes, of course. But the thing that I wanted to share with you is when you really dig deep and look at Palantir and what it is that it's doing, the people that, or the companies that it's providing its solutions for, it just doesn't match up for a company that makes $2.4 billion in revenue, and that's not even profit, but that's just revenue. $2.4 billion in revenue, yet it's worth $90 billion. It kind of really gets you to ask that question, well, is it really worth it? And that's the whole point of this video, is that as you continue to hear more about it, Do I think that Palantir can continue to go up? Yeah, of course. AI hype is still present. AI hype and growth can still continue to happen, especially as markets continue to go higher for longer. But the question that I always begin to ask myself is, at these extreme overbought levels, when is it too late to try to join a rally that has already gained 500% in return? This really reminded me, and again, not because they're similar companies, because they're not, but it reminded me a lot of Peloton. Peloton during the pandemic conditions, when the economy was closed, the worlds were closed, people couldn't go to the gym, Peloton experienced extreme demand, right? Just like with AI, right now AI is the new shiny toy. Anything during the pandemic that was at home, kind of like Zoom or Peloton, those companies thrived during those conditions, but they're short-lived. Just like any rally, some do last longer than others, but they eventually peak and then they come crashing down. At one point, Peloton was at $170 per share. Now it's trading at $2 per share. And if you actually look at Peloton, and this is one thing that I wanted to pull up for you guys, Peloton currently is worth $1.7 billion, yet its actual revenue that it produces is $2.7 billion a year. Now, of course, that's not all profit, and of course, maybe it's not a growing market, and definitely not focused in AI like something like Palantir. Palantir is just the new shiny toy in Wall Street because, again, there's a lot of good news that's going on, being added to the S&P 500, being recognized by all these different institutions, and then on top of that, being so focused in AI, it's again the new shiny toy in Wall Street, just like nvda, experiencing huge returns within a very short period of time, yet no one is really asking the question, well, how long will this last? Well, not until now, right? So $2.7 billion is what Peloton actually produces per year, yet again, so it actually produces more revenue than Palantir, but yet Palantir is worth $90 billion and Peloton is worth 1.7. Now, of course, two completely different companies. Don't get me wrong. I understand the difference. One's tech, one's software, one's AI. The other one is gym equipment. Trust me, I get the difference. I just wanted you to understand on the back end, all hype aside, Palantir does not even come close to its actual current valuation. So it's going to be really exciting to follow up with Palantir to see how high it goes. And if this AI bubble does come crashing down, I really do believe that Palantir can be one of the few that come back to possible previous lows. But again, only time will tell. So this is definitely a stock that I'm going to be paying a lot of very close attention to. It's not a stock that I would care to buy at $40 per share, as it's become very overbought, but it's definitely not a stock that I would also want to short right now because it's so incredibly bullish. So if you look at this on the day chart, it's above the moving average, above the EMA. Price action is nonstop, showing signs of higher highs and higher lows. There's no break-of pattern, so therefore no reason to short it. Just because something is overbought does not mean that it has to pull back right now, but it's something that maybe you can add to your watch list, pay attention to it, and if that opportunity ever does present itself, then you know exactly what you can short if that confirmation is actually presented. We'll talk about this a little bit more in detail during our live trading session, and if you want to tune on in, it's the second link in the description down below. And you guys let me know down below what you guys think about Palantir and how it compares to its actual revenue that it produces per year and its overall market cap of $90 billion. Hope that earned your thumbs up. Please consider subscribing, and like always, let's make sure that we end the year on a green note. Take care, team.